Mana de mi corazón, hoy es un día muy importante. Voy a entrevistar a una mujer que me cambió la vida. Te voy a contar que hace casi 10 años leí Eat, Pray, Love, comer, rezar, amar, de Elizabeth Gilbert. Me acuerdo de estar en una vacación con la familia de mi ex. Y bueno, en ese entonces era mi novio. Y yo lo estaba pasando tan mal porque sabía que no debía de estar en esa relación. El haber leído el testimonio y la historia de Elizabeth Gilbert me abrió la posibilidad, 1, de salirme de esa relación, 2, de entender que no había nada malo en mí por no querer ni desear tener hijos, y 3, porque una mujer se puede ir de viaje sola. En aquel entonces pensaba que eran prácticamente imposibles. Así que el hoy tener la oportunidad de hablar con alguien que admiro y respeto es una locura y es un sueño hecho realidad. Y quise hacer esta introducción porque gracias a ti que escuchas este podcast, gracias a ti que compartes mis episodios y gracias a ti por todo tu cariño, apoyo y confianza, este episodio es posible. Y también quiero agradecer a mi amiga Mari Carmen Obregón por la confianza y por pensar en mí para hacer esta entrevista. Quiero contarte además que es mi primera entrevista en inglés. Así es. Entonces, si la quieres escuchar en este idioma, adelante, está en todas las plataformas de audio, pero si quieres con subtítulos, te tienes que ir a YouTube. Y ahora sí, no me voy a alargar más. Escucha a la grandiosa Elizabeth Gilbert en Sensibles y Chingonas.
Esto es Sensibles y Chingonas.
Recuerda suscribirte al canal de YouTube, picarle a la campanita y seguirnos en tu plataforma de audio favorita. Liz, welcome to Sensibles y Chingonas.
Hi, it's so nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, this is such a dream come true. You have no idea what this means to me. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much. And I need to tell you something. This is my first English interview. So no pressure.
Oh
so exciting.
Really
so
brave.
exciting.
That's really
Yes.
brave. That's really brave of you. Yeah, that's fantastic. Listen, estoy aprendiendo español. So in case you have trouble, you can go to Spanish because it's mi madre lingua. No, that's Italian. How do you say my mother tongue? Spanish. My mother language.
Well, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for letting me say some words in Spanish, and I'm pretty sure you'll understand. I want to start.
Get there one way or another.
Yes. I want to start by quoting one of my favorite authors. Her name is Anne Lamott, and I'm pretty sure you know her. And she says that people are the most beautiful when they are laughing, crying, and telling the truth. What makes you laugh? And why do you think that humor can save us?
Wow. What a good first question. I grew up in a family of people who are really, really funny. And we aren't necessarily very good in my family at telling the truth, but we're good at laughing and we're good at crying. There was a lot of historical trauma and historical suffering in my family's history, as there is in every family's history. And having a sense of humor was the survival skill. You either laugh or you cry. And so people in my family chose to laugh. I think the reason that I became a storyteller is because, especially the men in my family who also drank a lot. So they would drink a lot of alcohol. They would tell really funny stories. They would tell really inappropriate stories that a 10-year-old girl should not be listening to, but I loved it. And I would sit at their feet and listen to these stories, and they were so full of life. They were so full of charisma. They were so full of humor. And I wanted to be like that, you know? And so humor became a tool for me. And sometimes I have to be a little bit careful with that. Because I would rather make a joke. I would rather make a joke than tell the truth about what I'm feeling or experiencing. And that's why I said in my family, we weren't very good at telling the truth. But that's something that I've had to learn in life is how to be more honest.
I come from a very funny family, and I love to also make jokes, because when I'm feeling uncomfortable, or when I'm feeling a little bit of tension, I try to make a joke, and sometimes it turns out good, but sometimes it doesn't.
When my partner, Rhea, the love of my life, when she was dying, there was a lot of laughter. There were a lot of tears, but there was also a lot of humor in those last weeks. Kind of death humor, a dark humor. And one of the nurses who is helping us was really, really funny. And she spends her life working with people who are dying and working with the families of people who are dying. And my mother is a nurse, and my mother would talk about the laughter that the nurses would get into when they were in really serious hospital situations. But it was this release, and I said to the nurse, I really appreciate your sense of humor, in this terrible time of loss and death. And she said, well, we have an expression, the hospice nurses, we say, if you can't laugh at death, you should get out of show business. And show business is what they call being a nurse. If you can't laugh at it, you don't belong here. If you're taking it too seriously, because you won't be able to survive. If you can't laugh at it, you won't be able to survive.
Yeah. A statement you made that blew my mind is that you've met CEOs, high-performance athletes, and famous leaders, but you hardly ever come across a relaxed woman. And you said that last year at the event here in Mexico City with Charms. And we were all like, oh, what are we doing? Why do you think that women, we have to be on duty all the time? And how do we stop thinking that we have to be on duty all the time?
Yeah. It's also very rare to meet a relaxed man. It's rare to meet a relaxed human being. But it's
yes, it works
impossible.
both ways. Yes.
Yes, but it's almost impossible to meet a relaxed woman. And listen, there are so many obvious reasons for this. Many of us were raised in families where we were victimized, and where our bodies, like very early on, girls find out that having a female body makes you prey. It makes you susceptible to violence and to abuse. That half of the population of the world is going to be bigger and stronger than you, and has aggression that can harm you. So, and then even setting aside that, there's just the characteristics of life on Earth itself, the tremendous unpredictability of the world. The most incredible and terrible thing about the world is anything can happen at any moment to anybody. That is the most amazing thing about life, and it is the most terrifying thing about life. And so we figure that out very soon too. Like, oh, there's no controlling this. Like danger can happen at any time to anybody in any moment. And then of course there's the patriarchal structure that is a constant battle. And knowing that you're always going to have to fight for your voice to be heard, to have value, to have worth. And then there's the great, I'm wearing a sweater covered with hearts. There's that great female heart, that wants to keep everybody that she loves safe, which is impossible. So anytime that you give me a job to do that's impossible, I'm going to be stressed, And so if my job is to keep myself safe, which is impossible, to keep the world safe, which is impossible, and to control people, which is impossible, I'm going to be extremely stressed. And yet that is how most women spend every minute of their lives, trying to do those three impossible things. So the answer to me, the solution that I was taught was put the world in control and then you can relax. Get everything under control and then you can relax. So we never relax because the world is never under control. So how do we relax before the world is under control? How do we relax despite the fact that the world is not in control? How do we relax despite the fact that death and danger and patriarchy and injustice and climate change and war and disease, that all of these things are real, and all of these things are happening? Can we find our Buddha nature inside of those disasters that are happening all the time? And I think we can, but it requires, I believe, three things. And this is what I spoke about in Mexico City last year. I think you need to have priorities. I think women are taught that you have to prioritize everything and everybody. And I think you have to learn that you're allowed to say, listen, I only have a limited amount of energy, and these are the things that are my priorities. These few people, these few activities, these few projects, this is what my priority is. And if you come to me and ask me to do anything outside of that, I can't. And women are never taught to say no. So that's a really hard thing for women. And the second thing is boundaries. Once you know what your priorities are, you have to be able to hold that boundary, without getting angry at the person who's attacking the boundary. Just being like, oh, here's the wall. Here's the wall. And I have a friend who always says to me, sometimes boundaries have to be repeated, because I hate setting boundaries so much. If I do it once, it's like, do not cross it again, because I already went through so much psychic pain to set the boundary once. Don't make me say it again. And if somebody pushes the boundary again, I'm so angry. And my friend is like, you just have to remind them, no, this is still the boundary. The boundary is still here. It hasn't changed. And then the last thing that I think we need as women to become relaxed is what I call mysticism, spirituality, some sort of listening to voices beyond the human, some sort of seeing, some sort of deep understanding, a perspective that is bigger than this world. And that to me is the main thing. When I can get quiet enough to hear and feel and see a bigger picture than what the world is presenting to me, I can relax and be like, oh, I see. This is all part of the story that's happening. It's just a story that's happening. And there's nothing wrong with it. So yeah, but that's work. And that also means prioritizing your spiritual path and setting a boundary around the time that you need to practice those spiritual lessons.
Yeah, it's so hard to say no. So hard. And for Mexicans, no, people hate it actually. And we Mexicans have this thing that we can't say no. I think it's wired to our system. I'm not kidding. Like if you invite someone to your party, they're going to say, yes, of course, I'll see you there. And then they don't show up. Like there's no accountability. Like it's so hard and people take it so personal. And this happens to everyone, but mostly women, we have so much trouble saying no. Why do we feel so guilty, and how do we deal with guilt?
When we say no, we are told that we are monsters. We have been taught that saying no makes you a bitch. It makes you selfish. It makes you unkind.
Ungrateful.
But here's what I'm actually ungrateful, cruel. How could you not do this? So the world doesn't make it easy for us, right? There's an expression that we have. Do you know the term people pleaser? Like somebody who's a people pleaser who tries to keep people happy. So when a people pleaser stops pleasing people, the people stop being pleased. Like they aren't happy about it. People don't like it. I don't like it when somebody says no to me. People don't like hearing the word no. And I don't like it. I hate it. So I understand. I have compassion for people when they aren't happy with my no, because I also don't like it. But what I'm discovering is that when I can show other women what a healthy no looks like, they become grateful, because they are like, oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know that you were allowed to do that. And so if somebody invites me to something, I can say to them, listen, I love you, and Not I love you, but I love you. And right now, I'm trying to make it a priority to make sure that I get sleep every night, because when I don't get 8 hours of sleep every night, I don't function very well. And there's this project that I'm working on that is so important to me. And the best way that I can show up for myself and for this project is to sleep. So if I come to your party, I can't get that sleep that I need. So no, I can't come. And what I have discovered is if I explain it that way, sometimes they're like, oh, that's cool. Like, can I borrow that language? Can I borrow that language next time I have to say no to something? I recently started this 1 day a week. I don't have my phone on. I turn my telephone off on Wednesday night at 10 o'clock.
I heard that.
And I turn it back on.
I heard that. And it's
Friday morning.
Incredible that you can do that.
It's not easy, but I had to tell every single person that I know, I am not available on Thursdays. So you aren't going to hear from me on Thursdays, unless you see me in person. But I'm not going to have my phone with me and then I explain it to them. I'm trying to break the addiction to this phone that has become my God. And so now a bunch of my friends are doing the same thing. And the main question that people had for me was, what if there's an emergency? And this is the heightened level of anxiety that we live in 24 hours a day. And the phone only reinforces it, that there's always going to be an emergency and that you always have to be available to the emergency. And I said, if there's an emergency, everybody's going to have to figure it out themselves. On Thursdays, I can help you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But on Thursday, if you have an emergency, and here's the thing, most emergencies are not emergencies. Like most of the things that people consider to be an emergency are not an emergency. And if it's a real emergency, somebody will find me. People know where I live. If it's a real emergency, the police will come and knock on my door, right? But it's how often does that happen? You know, for most of life, we live in a state of emergency in our nervous system, constantly certain that everything is an emergency. And so divorcing myself from my phone for 36 hours a week gives me a chance to restore my body to a feeling that there's not an emergency. And if there is, somebody else is on duty. But we don't have to be on duty 24 hours a day. That's a lie. The world can take care of itself better than you think.
And that makes you think that something bad is always going to happen, like any single time, because we feel that anxiety constantly. Like we don't trust that there's no control. And if something bad happens, then we will act. But why do we have to be worrying about it like the whole time? No?
It's incredible. It's so unnatural for human beings to know every bad thing that is happening at the world in real time. For hundreds of thousands of years, human beings lived in very small communities where they saw the same 10 or 15 people a day in the same setting every day. And it would not have been natural for you in your tiny village to know about a disaster that is happening on the other side of the world that you can't do anything about, right? But now, because of the 24-hour-a-day news cycle and because of mass media and because of the phone, it is now considered normal that I know every death and disaster and tragedy that is happening in the world all over the entire planet to 8 billion people in real time. My system cannot handle that because I did not evolve as an animal to be able to handle and process that. Tragedy after tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, nonstop. And every time my phone blinks or sends a little message, like there's been an earthquake here, there's a flood here, missiles are dropping here, people are dying here, disease is happening here. And because I'm a compassionate person and a soft-hearted person, I feel that at the center of my body, but I don't have any time to process it before the next message comes in about the next emergency happening on the next continent, in the next country. This is profoundly unnatural, right? There were always emergencies happening, but they were intimate and they happened in real time in front of you, and you had time to move through the stages of the grief. Here's the other thing that is really interesting that I've read. Sociologists and scientists have proven that when there is an actual emergency happening, an actual crisis, most people are very calm. And you have probably experienced this in your life where something quite serious was happening, like what we could objectively call an emergency. And the response, the natural human response, is actually not to become hysterical. All of those people who were in the second building on September 11th, who couldn't get down because the fire was below them, if you hear the messages that they were leaving when they were calling their families, they were speaking as calmly as I'm talking to you right now. And they knew that they were going to die. And they were just calling to say, I just need to tell you how much I love you. And please don't worry about me. Like, we're here with some people and we're together and we love you. This is the actual human response to a real emergency, right? So we live our lives in terror and panic that an emergency is going to happen. But when it happens, we actually rise to our highest, calmest, most helpful nature. So in a way, you actually don't have to worry because when the thing happens, you're going to know what to do more than you think. You're going to know what to do. But again, if your nervous system is being attacked 75 times a day by your phone telling you about disasters that you have no power over, you're going to become mentally ill. And that's what's happening to people. That's why we're seeing this incredible rise in anxiety, this incredible rise in suicide, this incredible rise in mental illness. We can't handle the 24-hour-a-day news cycle. It's not healthy.
It reminds me when we had this earthquake here in Mexico City in 2017, and that's exactly what happened to me. I was so calm, and I didn't know what was happening, but yeah, I was not panicking. So yeah, even in those times, like you're just thinking about survival. I don't know. It's such a mystery what happens to human beings when we're on those situations. But but thank you for reminding us. And I really want to do that. I was so jealous when I heard that you put your phone on a safety box on Wednesday and then you use your phone again on Friday. Liz, I want to talk to you about priorities because you say, and I agree, that we've bought this idea that we never have enough time. How can we set our priorities? And also, I thought about this idea that you also said that when you set your priorities and you set your boundaries, you also disappoint people. So how do you transform disappointment into an opportunity for personal growth?
Well, first of all, it's really important to know that people can survive being disappointed. I have been disappointed so many times in my life, and I'm still alive. I am still here. I get disappointed all the time, and I can survive it. And so can you. And so can the people who you disappoint. It's not a death sentence to disappoint somebody. So first of all, that's a really important thing to remember. Like, somebody will say, like, I'm really disappointed. And I'll be like, I see your disappointment and I trust that you'll survive. I trust that you'll survive that. You'll find it. You're an adult. You'll find a way to process that. But as for this thing about time, I had a really big awakening about this. 10 years ago, I was working on my book, Big Magic, about creativity. And I went on Facebook, because I was on Facebook back then. I went on Facebook and I said to my 700,000 followers at that time, I'm working on this book about creativity and I have a question for all of you. I'm taking a survey. What is the one thing, the major thing that is preventing you from being able to live a more creative life? What is the biggest obstacle that you have to living a more creative life? And almost all of those people immediately responded, I don't have enough time. I don't have any free time. I don't have enough time to be creative. So do you hear the irony? They were on Facebook. They were on Facebook.
Writing.
There were 700
10-minute message.
about how they don't have any time. And I just started laughing because I called everybody out and I just said, can I just call your attention to the fact that right this minute, while you're telling me that you don't have any time, you are on a voluntary social media program, sitting and talking, like doing whatever you're doing on this Facebook. So a good place to start, a really good place to start would be to maybe get away from social media, which is not easy because it's become a drug. And I heard somebody say really something so accurate the other day about social media. She said, I feel like social media started off as a really fun party drug that everybody was doing that was like making the party really cool and everybody loved it. And now everybody's addicted to it and nobody's having fun anymore. Like nobody's getting high off it anymore, yes, but everybody's addicted and we can't get away from it. So the primary thing that I would suggest is to get very honest with yourself about how much, really look at, because your phone will tell you, if you ask your phone how much screen time you had that week, you could write a novel in the amount of time that you are staring at your phone doing nothing but staring at the phone. And listen, I struggle with this too. I mean, this is the reason that I do the Sabbath, the digital Sabbath on Thursday, is because I am horrified by how much of my life I'm spending staring at that phone. I could learn a second or third or fourth language in the time that I'm staring at the phone. I could write a novel. I could get into the best shape of my life, which I'm not going to do, but I could in the time that I spend looking at Instagram reels, like, so part of it is instead of blaming the world, like I really try to live a life of total self-accountability, so I can blame the world for the fact that I don't have time. But in the end, the reality is that the universe gave me one life to live and gave me this opportunity to live this life and gave me this one body in which to move through the world in this weird spacesuit, to have these experiences, gave me a certain kind of talent, gave me my obstacles, gave me my family, gave me my troubles, and then said, what are you going to make? What are you going to make with this opportunity? And I like to believe that the universe gave me my life because it believed that I could make good use of it. And so if I'm wasting that gift, staring at that tiny little machine, that robot God, then that's ultimately my responsibility. I can blame the social media companies for creating addictive paradigms, but that's like blaming the cigarette companies for creating nicotine. In the end, it's my decision what I'm putting in my body. It's my decision what I'm putting in my mind. And one of my biggest priorities in life, and this might sound really strange, but solitude and silence are two of the biggest priorities of my life. To be alone and to be quiet. And here's what I understand now. Nobody has any interest in protecting my solitude, and nobody has any interest in protecting my silence, because I am not valuable to other people when I am alone and quiet. I am only valuable to other people when I'm serving them, interacting with them, giving them what they want, helping them, paying attention to them, right? So other people value me only for what I give to them. And my solitude and my silence has no value to them, but it has so much value to me, because everything that is good and beautiful about my life comes from the experiences that I have when I am alone and quiet, because that's where I meditate. That's where I write. That's where I pray. That's where I breathe. That's where I can see, so my number one priority in the world is to protect my silence and to protect my solitude. And I think that for a woman to say that, it's almost illegal. It's almost like you're going to get arrested if you say that, because it goes against everything that we are taught about what makes you a good woman. But I'm not interested in being a good woman. I'm interested in being a complete I'm interested in having a complete spiritual experience as a human being, a complete creative and spiritual experience as a human being. And if I'm trying to be a good woman, I can't. Because if I'm a good woman by society and culture's definition and my family's definition of what a good woman is, I will be as sick and exhausted and angry as my mother and my grandmothers and all those women who came before me who were sick and exhausted and angry. And I don't want to go through my life sick, exhausted, and angry.
Yeah, it's almost like being a rebel, like not following the rules and doing what any other woman from your family did. Like for me, last year I decided I don't want to be a mother. Like I don't want to have children, and it was also like what you said. It made me think of what I wanted, not everyone else wanted for me, but also being true to yourself and making your own decision and discovering what is good for you, not for the rest, is so brave. Because we're not taught that we can raise our hands and say, no, I do not agree with this, or no, I don't want to do this. So yeah, sorry that I'm thinking too much. It's just that every single thing you say makes me like, it blows my mind. And I heard that that's also the reason that you're still on social media, because you're still on Instagram, but that's also the reason why you started your newsletter on Substack, Letters from Love. And I have to say that I enjoy it very, very much. But I also have a question. Why did you call love this superior force instead of God? And what have you discovered about yourself since you started this practice?
I love that question. But first, I want to acknowledge you for having the courage to know that you did not want to have children. And I made that same decision. And I know, it's not easy because the family and the culture have a lot of difficulty with it. It takes a lot of courage to say that. And I just want to tell you, as a very happy, child-free 55-year-old woman, I have never regretted that decision.
No.
And in fact, every year I'm happier that I made that decision.
No, and you're one of the reasons, and I'm not saying this just because I have you here in front of me. I made this decision, and you were one of those examples that I have in my life, even though I just know you by your work and your books. I was like, oh, she seems very happy. And she seems very fulfilled and proud of who she is. So yeah, we need to see more examples of those women.
I'm always happy to talk about it because I think it's
it's necessary for the ones that are not sure about their decision, or that are scared that they probably made the wrong choice, or they're probably going to be 45 and be regretting that they didn't have any children. So thank you so much for being an example for us.
I made friends recently with a 95-year-old woman who used to be a dancer and a showgirl in New York City. And I met her when I was researching my last book. And she came from a very traditional Catholic family, and she never got married, and she never had children. And she had a lot of lovers because she was very beautiful and she was very sexual. And she was John Wayne's girlfriend for a while. And she was, she had this really big, glamorous, exciting life. And she said, she's 95. And she said, I still have family members who say, okay, you had your fun and you had your freedom, but when you get old, you're going to regret that you don't have children. And she just said, I'm 95. I'm still waiting to regret it. I don't. I'm looking around.
When do you think I'm going to start regretting this?
When do you think I'm going to start regretting it?
At my 100th birthday?
Exactly. And her family became her friends, which is the same for me. My friends are my family. So there are many ways to create family. Okay, so to your question about love. So one of one of the ways that I'm trying to get away from traditional social media is through this newsletter service called Substack. That's essentially like a blog, like people did in the 1990s. It's an email subscription service. So people can go to my Substack, Elizabeth Gilbert Substack, and they can sign up for an email that they'll get once a week. And I wanted to make a beautiful project on Substack. And so I created this project called Letters from Love, where I'm teaching people how to do a practice that I do every day and that I've been doing every day for almost 20 years, where every morning I write myself a letter from unconditional love. And I ask this one question. I've been asking the same question for 20 years. Dear love, what would you have me know today? What do you want me to know today? And then I allow the spirit of unconditional love to answer me about what it wants me to know. And it is such a beautiful practice. It's such a mystical, spiritual, psychologically healing, emotionally rich practice. And why I use the word love and not God. I am very comfortable with the word God. I use the word God in my life all the time. The God of my understanding, who is not the God that I was taught, but the God of my understanding is the most important thing in my life. So I have no trouble with the word God, but a lot of people do. And a lot of people have very good reason to have trouble with the word God. And for many people, that word is a word that is associated with abuse and oppression and judgment and cruelty and punishment. And so I'm really careful about not using that word because I don't want to hurt people with it. And so unconditional love, but here's the other reason. I actually don't think that unconditional love and God are the same thing. So I also talk to God all day, but that's different from talking to unconditional love. Unconditional love is part of God, but God is more than that. Unconditional love is a gift from God, but I don't think unconditional love is God. I think God is way bigger and more mysterious than just that. But I don't think I can survive my journey here on Earth and Earth School. I don't think I can survive my journey here without the gift of unconditional love. And I need that in order to get through every day because it's difficult here. And so I've found this practice where I can call it in, where I can call in unconditional love and say, what do you want me to know? How do you want me to move through the day? And then this beautiful voice comes and tells me everything that I need to hear. And sometimes when I first started the practice, I would say to that voice, are you God? And it would say, no, sweetheart, I'm love. And then I would say, well, what's going to happen? Like if I was in a really anxious situation, I would say, what's going to happen about this situation? And love would say, I don't know. I don't have that information. It's not my department. I don't know anything about the future. God does, but I don't. I'm just love. I'm just here to be with you as you move through this difficult thing. And I will be here with you as you move through this difficult thing. You won't do it alone. That's the only thing I can tell you. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if you're going to survive. I don't know how this is going to end, but I just know that you don't have to do it alone. I will be here with you. And that's love. And I think we all need that.
Yeah, we all do. And I really want to write myself a love letter. But
yeah, I hope you do.
But it takes so much courage, and it's so brave also, because you're going to discover some things about yourself that probably you don't want to see, but at the same time, it's such a beautiful present that you do to yourself every single day, that you start recognizing yourself and the greatness that you have and all the things that you're capable of that sometimes we don't see. So yeah, I'm going to write mine. And then when I see you in November.
Let me tell you this. Yes, show it to me in November. And let me just say this one thing to you.
I promise you.
You said that it takes courage to write yourself a letter from unconditional love. Honey, it takes courage to listen to the voices in your head that tell you that you're wrong, that you're bad, that you failed, that you need to do better, that you're not perfect enough, that you made these mistakes. That's what takes courage. All day long, you're listening to these really cruel, hard voices in your head attacking you. But you never think that it takes courage to do that, because that's just normal life, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually listening to a voice of unconditional love is actually the end of that, right? It's like a vacation from that. It's like a pause from that constant pressure, that constant attack. So I don't want you to have the kind of courage anymore that you have going through life only listening to the darkest voices in your head. I want you to not have to be brave like that anymore. And I want you to really hear from within you, and I know it's within you, a voice that says to you, you are so worth loving just exactly the way you are. And you don't have to change anything about your life to earn that love. And you can't lose that love. And you didn't have to negotiate for that love. You don't have to manipulate for that love. It's your birthright. It's your gift. It's who you are. It's what you are. And it's always with you. I want you to hear that in your own voice, in your own mind. And so that you don't have to be so courageous all the time.
No. I need to confess something to you. And on Saturday, while I was planning all the questions I was going to write, I just started panicking, crying. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. Like, this is impossible. I'm going to call Charms. I'm going to cancel this. I'm not ready. This is not perfect. Who do I think I am to talk to Liz Gilbert? And then I just started laughing afterwards, because I just thought this is exactly the opposite of what Liz says. You're doing the exact opposite. You're thinking about perfection. You're thinking about the result. You're thinking about the future. You're not thinking about being present. Like, everything that you heard from her, you're just doing the opposite. So I really want to thank you for everything that you do. I know you know this, but you change people's lives, and you've gave me, and I'm going to talk about myself, the possibility to live a different life and to live my own life. So I'm really grateful, and I'm sorry I just started crying, but
I just see your heart.
I'm really grateful.
Your heart, and I love it. Oh, sweetheart.
Thank you so much.
I see you. And I also, that panic that you talked about, I just taught a workshop this weekend. I've been teaching this workshop for 10 years. I teach this workshop 10 or 12 times a year. Every single time I teach it, I think, this is the day that it's not going to work. This is the day that it's going to be a disaster. This is the day that everybody's going to find out that that I'm a fraud, that I don't know anything. Yeah. This is the day that they're going to want their money back. So I think it's actually just very natural to have those feelings of panic. But I'll just end by saying one thing. You asked a very important question. You said, who do you think you are? Who do I think I am? And I will just suggest that you stay with that question. Who do you think you are? What do you think you are? Because that question can lead you to enlightenment. That question can lead you to your Buddha nature. It can lead you to peace, and it can lead you to the truth, right? You said at the beginning of the interview, people are most beautiful when they're telling the truth. The truth, honey, about what you are. It makes me want to cry, because I already know the answer. But I think to live in that question is a really beautiful way to live. So thank you for your heart and for your vulnerability. And you did a beautiful job in your first English interview. Like, that's so intimidating. That's so hard. And you did it. And I enjoyed every minute of talking to you. And I can't wait to see you in November.
Yeah, thank you so much. And also, I thought, well, in a way, it's such a blessing that Liz was your first English interview, because she's not going to judge you. So I felt such a relief, because someone else, probably, but not you. So Thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you in November. I can't wait to see you. I really, really, really want to listen to everything that you have to say. And I promise you, I'm going to write that letter from love and I'm going to show it to you. And
I can't wait to see it.
I'll write it in Spanish. So I hope you can understand it by then. But if not, I'll translate it for you.
It'll be good practice for me. And I'm going to give you a big hug when I see you.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye, angels. I'll see you very soon.
Esto fue Sensibles y Chingonas. Síguenos en Instagram y Facebook como Sensibles y Chingonas. Y no olvides suscribirte a nuestro newsletter en sensiblesychingonas.com/newsletter.